After an 8-month absence from the big screen, Marvel finally returns with their first female-led film, Captain Marvel. So let's talk about it. Captain Marvel is the 21st film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's a prequel set during the 90s, telling the story of a Kree warrior hero trying to stop the shape-shifting Skrull. But when she crash lands on Earth, she realizes that her backstory is way more complicated than she realized. As we go into this is a spoiler-free review. I'm only going to discuss specific plot points that are shown in the trailers. On Sunday, I'm going to be dropping my spoiler-filled review, which I actually shot with a couple of my YouTube buddies, which was quite a bit of fun. Tell me your thoughts on it down below in the comment section, but as this is a spoiler-free review, keep the comment sections free of spoilers. I will delete any spoilers that I see down there, and also keep this respectful. I know there's a lot of controversy surrounding this film. You can disagree with the movie, don't be mean to people. Let's get started talking about the good. And probably the best thing about this film was Nick Fury. Samuel L. Jackson is just great in this role. And in this film, you see pre-cynical Nick Fury. We get all the stuff that we love about him, but we see a different side to the character, and we see him turn into the Nick Fury that we know in later films. And because his character had to be de-aged for the film, I was a little bit skeptical that maybe he was going to be a smaller part of the film. No, he's a major character in this film, and it is great. And apparently he really likes cats. Who knew? Speaking of cats, let's talk about Goose the cat. This was another great little character inside of the film. It just hits all the right notes at all the right moments in all the right ways. Another standout in the film is Ben Mendelsohn as our Skrull villain. At the beginning of the film, I thought it was going to be a little bit more of Ben Mendelsohn doing kind of his typical schmarmy villain routine, but as the film goes along, they keep adding layers upon layers for the character, and we get something new from him. Another thing I enjoyed is that it's once again a new type of Marvel film. It certainly feels like it has that MCU shine on the whole thing, but it has a different genre to it. It actually felt a lot to me like the X-Files during the middle act of the film. There's even a part where they go to a secret base, and just the imagery of all of it reminded me of the X-Files. And while this is an origin story, it does not follow the MCU origin template at all. It is a new story structure for the MCU. Speaking of the story, there's a lot of twists and turns along the way in this film that I didn't see coming. The trailers do a pretty good job of not really giving away what the story is for this film and where it's going. So along the way, you really do have some surprises. As this is a Marvel film, you get 2 post-credit scenes. One's just kind of a little bit fun, and one is the meat that is a really nice nugget right now. So I thoroughly enjoyed the first end credit scene in this film. And as this is a Marvel film, it just has a great sense of fun. It's a very watchable film, and in the scheme of the Marvel films, while it has some heavier elements to it, it's a more lighthearted entry into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. With that said, let's move on to the mixed aspects of this film. And the first thing that comes to mind is the 90s setting. Now, some of this is a lot of fun to see: Blockbuster, Radio Shack, pocket pagers, pinball machines. Just the aesthetic is nice for me as someone that was growing up during the 90s. It's also great to see a young Coulson in the film. He's more of a cameo kind of sprinkled throughout the film, but as it is a prequel, it tries to answer some questions and give us hints of where certain things came from. Some of it's kind of interesting, and some of it is cringe-inducing bad. Also, the soundtrack to the film at times is a lot of fun as they started playing 90s pop songs, but other times it's distracting. It's like they were trying too hard to be clever, and they killed the dramatic tension of certain scenes because of their song choices. The film also has the return of some Kree characters from Guardians of the Galaxy, where it's nice to see them, but they don't really add much to the film. They could have been replaced by anyone else. They only included them to be like, hey, remember them from Guardians of the Galaxy? Another big mixed aspect of this film was Brie Larson and Captain Marvel. Going into the film, there's a lot of controversy surrounding her acting because some of the trailers portrayed her as very stiff. In the film, she's a lot more dynamic, vibrant, and especially sassy in the film, so I don't think the trailers represented her particularly well. But the character and the acting always felt kind of off to me, and almost like they were at an arm's length away emotionally. I never felt like we really understood what made her tick? What was she thinking? What was motivating her? And a lot of the film, we're told things about her, but they don't really show us those things about her. Even her powers were pretty confusing. It was very unclear what her powers are and how powerful she is, even at the end of the film. And one final mixed thing on this film was the special and visual effects. The de-aging in this film is fantastic. There was not one time where any of it looked off to me. It just looked like they pulled it off, de-aging Samuel L. Jackson and Coulson by 25 years. However, some of the other special effects where people are flying in space and stuff like that definitely looked cartoony at times and I didn't fully buy it. With that said, let's move on to the negative. The big problem here is the film never feels like it has a single cohesive vision. The space stuff feels like it's directed by one person, the Nick Fury investigation feels like it's directed by another, and then the whole thing feels like Kevin Feige put his shine on it. Contrast that with Infinity War, which also hops from space to Earth and franchise to franchise, but the whole film feels like it was put together by one creative team. The whole film has one storytelling voice and tone. This film, it feels like scene to scene, someone different was directing. And I suspect that's because this film had a pretty cluttered creative team. There's 5 people credited with the story, 3 credited screenwriters, 2 credited directors, and then of course Kevin Feige doing his magic on the whole thing. Another problem with the film is the pacing and the storytelling. It does get better as it goes along, but the first act of this film is very clunky, exposition heavy, and has incredibly awkward dialogue that just exists to set up the characters and tell us everything we need to know about the universe and the rules. I hinted at this before, but this movie has a lot of weird performances that just feel off. Like the people acting in scenes together are in totally different movies. Annette Bening in particular, who has given great performances, does not work inside this film at all. The movie also feels like it has the exact wrong amount of flashbacks, or at least the way it uses them is the exact wrong way. It cuts back to these flashbacks where it montages through several different glimpses of her childhood and her upbringing, but it doesn't just these quick glimpses, and it felt like either cut that out entirely or pick specific scenes in the flashbacks to zoom in on, but the way it used them, it just felt very unsatisfying and like it didn't show us what it thought it was showing us. And finally, as this is a prequel, one of the answers the movie gives as to how something happened is totally unforgivable. It would have been much better to not answer the question than to offer this as the explanation. Real quick before I give you my final score on this one, tell me what did you think down below in the comment section. We're gonna disagree, just remember to do it respectfully. Come back tomorrow for my ranking of the Marvel movies and come back on Sunday for my spoiler-packed review of this movie. And if you want some more Marvel Now, click right up here after this video. It's a fun movie with some great Nick Fury moments, but wildly uneven storytelling, acting, and tone hold it back from being upper tier Marvel. It's a B- overall, 7.5 on entertainment. If you're a Marvel fan, of course you gotta see it in the theater. Everyone else, you can wait for Redbox. Come back this weekend for more Captain Marvel content. Check out that playlist right over there for more Marvel Now. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies too much.